Welcome back, guys. The divisional round of the 2023 playoffs are in the books, and we have blown out the Seahawks, and we can soon look forward to our NFC Championship game. Before we get started, remember to like, comment, subscribe, turn on those notifications down below, and let's get straight into talking about what happened in that last game. Many people expected another tight division rivalry matchup for us, but instead, we ended up dominating Seattle, defeating them by a score of 52-27, with all of those points coming in garbage time. But now, let's go through the story of this game. We had a shocker on the very first play, as when the Seattle offense came out, we expected the rookie Zach Charbonnet to be the lead back in relief of the injured Kenneth Walker. But instead, they decided to go with the 25-year-old DJ Dallas. And while he had a few nice runs, he overall struggled for much of the day, and we will get back to his biggest mistake in a little bit. Our defense would force an opening drive 3 and out, and on our first play, we would feel the power of the Seattle blitz, as it would be Uchenna Nwosu who would get a free shot at Murray, and he would match the sack he had in our previous clash just 2 weeks prior. And how would we respond? We would try for our own big play, as we took a rookie-on-rookie deep shot, as we had our own Michael Wilson matched up with Witherspoon, and he completely mossed him for a massive reception. And he would make another big grab early in the following quarter, as he would get open on a play action, and he would take the catch for 22 yards, and he would set up for a touchdown later on. After the big moss from Wilson, we would fight our way all the way down the field. Kyler Murray would get out of the pocket, and when some space cleared, he would waltz into the end zone to get the first score of this game. And he would not stop there, as he was such a threat with his legs all day long, as he ended with over 60 yards on the ground, with his longest going for 38. Then, when possession switched back to Seattle, this is when Dallas's biggest mistake would come, as on just his third carry of the day, it would be our own Zaven Collins who would punch the ball out to force the fumble, and after Budda Baker dived on it, it would secure the huge takeaway very early on. He would not be the only guy to make an impact on our defense, as the next time they got the ball would be our defensive captain Dennis Gardick, who recorded a sack to match his one from the previous round, and he just did well to clean up the job that Clelin Ferrell started. And these defensive contributions were a big reason why Geno Smith struggled mightily. Before we entered all of our backups at the start of the second half, Geno had thrown a pitiful 1 for 11 for 4 yards. A game like that is something that can get you shipped out of town quick. On the other hand, Murray was very impressive through the air as well, as he threw for near 250 yards, going 10 for 15, and he tossed in 2 scores as well. Back to the game timeline. We would then begin to rely on the run, and one of the focal points of that was James Conner. He only received 7 carries on the day, but he would do well with the carries he got, and he would punch in our next touchdown. And the next guy to lead our rushing attack would be none other than Tyson Williams. He ended up averaging near 4 yards a carry, and he would not only punch in this next score, but late in the second quarter, he would find the end zone once again by getting away from Bobby Wagner to double his touchdown total. It was not all easy, however, as Seattle's Matthew Ioannidis was a force on the center of the defensive line, and he made his presence felt as he finished the day with 6 total tackles and dropping us behind the line on 2 separate occasions. Our next touchdown would come soon after, as Murray would make one of the best plays of the game to connect with Rondale Moore. As he was scrambling right and back, Moore found himself in the open zone, and Murray delivered him a picture-perfect ball to allow him to bring in the first receiving score of the day. Our pass rush would then get active once more, as it would be the pair of Clelin Ferrell and Cameron Thomas who would secure our next sack on the day, as Ferrell would be the first to get to Geno, and as soon as Thomas got hands on, there was no chance that play was going anywhere but into the dirt. And as we neared the end of our dominant first half, how else could we cap it off than to get Hollywood Brown, our superstar receiver, into the end zone? Murray would buy some time and deliver a perfect ball for his man to get on the end of, and then all Hollywood would have to do was outrun the defenders and take it all the way to lock in the 65-yard touchdown. Now from this point on, we would enter all of our backups, with this game pretty much decided, so we will try to make this second half portion go by quickly. The guy who got most involved after the break was Noah Fant. He snagged our first touchdown score on the day, and he would end up bringing in 8 for just under 80 yards as well. Their defense would also take advantage of the situation, as some big plays would start to pop up, like when Devin Bush came in on the blitz call and with lightning speed dropped Blau in the backfield to back them up a good bit. And they would continue to pick on him more, as just 2 plays later, Blau would take a deep shot, and it would be Jamal Adams who would crash across and collect the interception to get his team the ball right back. They would create another big moment on our very next possession, as Nwosu would be the one to get home once again, and this time he would pop the ball out, but it would be Yannick Ngakoue who would jump on it, and as no one touched him down, he would get up and take it all the way back for the 46-yard fumble return touchdown. But on the very next play, as Myers kicked us back off, our own Andre Bocelli would return the kickoff all the way back for the touchdown, going 105 yards and making that fumble return touchdown essentially meaningless. Then the veteran receiver Tyler Lockett would start to get productive late, and he would end the day bringing in 4 for 42, with one of them being this phenomenal touchdown snag in which the ball was snuck just past the tight coverage. Then a few plays later, Blau would get hit as he releases a pass, and it would give Julian Love just enough of an alteration to get on the end of it to secure Seattle's second interception of the day. But we would take it right back as Gino would get complacent and eye down his target, and the former Lion Juju Hughes would make him pay as he would crash on the ball, cut off the pass, and secure the turnover to get his team the ball right back. DJ Dallas would eventually get himself a consolation touchdown just outside the 2-minute warning, but the most impressive running back of the half would be none other than Corey Clement. He caught one ball out of the backfield that he took for nearly 20, and he was a force on the ground as he averaged just over 4.5 a carry and got himself over 60 on the day, including the game-clinching first down. We could then move straight into the news headlines for the week, and after we defeated them in blowout fashion, the Seahawks head coach Pete Carroll would officially announce his retirement from the NFL, ending his 14-year tenure in Seattle and bringing an end to his 18-year career as an NFL head coach. We covered it during our halftime break, but in the other NFC Divisional Round matchup, it was the Philadelphia Eagles who would pull off the upset victory against their division rival Dallas Cowboys. Philly would get off to a hot start behind their rushing trio of Hurts, Swift, and Penny as they would combine for 191 yards and 3 touchdowns. And they found themselves up 21 during the second quarter, but the Cowboys would find themselves on the scoreboard that same quarter as Michael Gallup would bring in the touchdown. And then after a fourth quarter comeback led by a dynamic passing attack of Dak Prescott, who would throw for well over 300 yards and 4 scores, overcoming the 5 sacks put together by Nakobe Dean, Fletcher Cox, Josh Sweat, Julian Okwara, and Nicholas Moreau, Dallas would force overtime. Both these teams would score touchdowns with their first possessions in extra time. The Eagles would find Goddard and the Cowboys would find Lamb, but it would be Philadelphia who would find the end zone with a long breakaway touchdown catch from Devontae Smith to create the walk-off score to send them to the NFC Championship. Then, moving over to the AFC, the one-seeded Baltimore Ravens would fend off the red-hot Raiders by a mere 3 points to advance to the next round. Baltimore would start off hot, putting together 3 touchdowns in the first half, the first coming through the air as a dominant Lamar Jackson, who had an 84% completion percentage, would hit Zay Flowers for the big 43-yard touchdown reception. And then the rushing attack for them would get hot, as Lamar and Kareem would start to work the read option as they would combine for over 120 yards. And including Edwards, they would also punch in 2 rushing scores. But Vegas would do their best to keep up as Josh Jacobs would start to dominate as he rushed for 126 yards and a touchdown, with the extra point being blocked by Michael Pierce, and then Jimmy Garoppolo would toss a touchdown as well to Jacoby Myers. But then it would be Justin Madubuike who would get home for the sack that would end up injuring Garoppolo and forcing him to leave for the remainder of the game. That would mean the journeyman Brian Hoyer would step up to the QB1 spot in the fourth quarter, and he would lead a big-time drive in which he would throw another passing touchdown to Hunter Renfrow, and they would be successful in the 2-point conversion to tie the game up, but it would be the future Hall of Famer kicker Justin Tucker who would step up to take the 39-yard field goal as time expired, and he would knock it through for us to have another walk-off win in the divisional round. And our last game to discuss would be the underdog Titans heading into Arrowhead to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. And it would be the reigning Super Bowl champs who would find victory by a 1-point margin. Tennessee would start by taking over the time of possession as Derrick Henry would rush for 125 yards and a score. And then the fullback Colin Gillespie would get himself on the board with a touchdown of his own. But the Patrick Mahomes-led offense would tie this one up before the half as he would throw 2 scores to the end zone, hitting his favorite target, Travis Kelce. Then, in the second half, They would continue to pile on as the Chiefs' Drew Tranquill would pick off Tannehill, leading to a rushing score from Pacheco, and a third passing touchdown, this time going to Kadarius Toney. But the Titans would have a fourth quarter comeback of their own, with Tannehill redeeming himself, passing for 2 scores, hitting Greg Dortch for 1, and near the end of the game hitting Treylon Burks to move the game to 28-27. And instead of calling on Michael Badgley for the tying extra point, they wanted to go for 2 and the win, but they would not be successful, and it would mean KC would be heading to the AFC Championship for the 6th straight year. And now looking at the updated playoff bracket, those 2-seeded Chiefs will now have to travel into Baltimore to take on the Ravens in the 1 versus 2 matchup. And over on our NFC side, we will be having a 2 versus 6 battle as we will be welcoming in reigning NFC champion Philadelphia Eagles. Now, we saw this team just 4 weeks prior, so we will not be reviewing the roster, but let's evaluate the injuries of every remaining unit. On the AFC side, the Chiefs look to be without the man who caught a touchdown last week in Kadarius Toney, as he is dealing with a back strain and he will be unable to suit up. If they are able to advance to the big stage, he should be back healthy and ready to go. Their opposition in the Ravens look to be mostly healthy, only being without a backup guard as he is still recovering from a complete ACL tear. An update on our injury list, we have no additions to speak of, but both Kaiser White, who is dealing with a torn labrum, and LJ Collier, who is dealing with a broken finger, will be missing this game. But should we make it to the Super Bowl, they should be healthy and ready to go. But we do have a big return, as Bryce Huff will be back after missing our last game, and he will be ready to put on the pressure on the Eagle offensive line. And speaking of those Eagles, their injury report is causing some pretty massive changes. Both Darius Slay and Jalen Carter are both suffering from broken fingers, and they will be out of action for this game. But they should both be available and ready to go should they get their second chance at winning the bowl. But the big story is that after seeing Julian Okwara's big sack in relief of Brandon Graham, they have decided to place Graham on the injured reserve despite him now being healthy, ending his play for the playoff run and forcing him to support from the sidelines. And with that information, we can now set our game plan for this upcoming matchup. Starting on defense, we want to defend the medium pass. We know this passing attack can be very scary, so hopefully if we can limit that middle portion, we can slow them down enough. Then on offense, we want to counter the blitz. This team has so many special pass rushers, and they blitz the 3rd most in the league this year. So if we can keep in extra blockers and pick them up, hopefully we should be able to find some openings. We could then set our goals for this upcoming game. First, we want to win the turnover battle. We don't need to get fancy here. This is going to be a very tight matchup, and the team that makes the least mistakes will likely come away with the win. Next, we want to get 300 plus offensive yards. Our playmakers are on fire as of late, but we can't expect them to be as dominant as last week against another one of the league's best defensive units. After that, we want to allow 24 points or less. I believe enough in our team for us to be able to put up at least 4 touchdowns, and if we can keep them under that mark, we should have a good shot of walking out with the win. And lastly, we want to get 2 passing touchdowns. We know they will be without their top corner in Slay, and we need to take advantage of that and see if our receivers can continue to make plays against a weakened secondary. We then completed training for the week, but we did not leave unscathed. Running back James Conner would suffer a high ankle sprain, leaving him out of action this week, and our veteran corner Xavier Rhodes will also be missing as he is dealing with a back sprain. However, should we make it past Philly, they should be ready to go for the big game. That means that Corey Clement will be taking the workload of RB2, and Rashad Fenton will move into the starting secondary unit. At the very least, both these players have performed very well in recent weeks as we let the backups get some playing time. But we did get some nice growth from some key contributors. To start, we have our speedy pass rusher Clelin Ferrell, and he has been great winning inside in a lot of our nickel and dime packages, and he continued his development, improving in his agility, awareness, finesse moves, play rec, and pursuit. And on the other side of the ball, we have Tyson Williams, a guy who has really carved out his spot on this team over the course of the year, starting as a makeshift fullback and now finding himself as our lead running back. And today, he improved in his acceleration, catching, juke move, release, and short route running. And with that, we have discussed everything we needed to for this week. If you guys enjoyed, remember to like, comment, subscribe, turn those notifications down below, and I will see you all next time as we take on the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC Championship with a trip to the Super Bowl on the line.